No, a white person will not serve you your Chinese, by user punkthug. TL.DR at the bottom. I apologize for being on mobile. It's a long story, but the lawyers just told me I could tell it late last year, so I saved it for fake internet points. Grinning face with smiling eyes. Background: I'm the second manager of a deli department in a large grocery store. The layout of my department is thus: from the entrance you have about 20 feet of sandwich bar, then there's a little counter for a check stand, ends up being important, then you have our sushi station, our Chinese hot case, the fried food hot case, entrance to the department, and then about 40 feet of fresh made salads and sliced meat counters. Whole department runs an easy 300 feet along the west wall. The important thing to know is, the Chinese food and sushi are not our department. They don't even work for the same company as I do. We work in the same space, but they are a franchisee. Thus at no time do we serve their food or do they serve ours. And, as it is unfortunately pertinent to my story, the franchisees are a Burmese immigrant family. Finally, there is a lot of paraphrasing, but this accurately represents the testimony I gave in court. Part 1, The Lady. This all happens during the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. Mostly our customers were great, but everyone was running high stress then. After the head boss leaves, I'm in charge, so I try and hide in the back and do the cooking, only coming up when the front area needs extra hands. Anyways, this day I'm cooking or frying something or other, and I hear commotion in the front. I hate customer service, but I'm really effing good at it, so I head over to see what's going on. There is an angry old lady just absolutely losing her shit at the Chinese hot case. I go over to figure out what the problem is. Punk: hello ma'am, how can I help you? AOL: I want a 2-item combo. Half rice, half chow mein, peppered beef and orange chicken. Yes, I remember her exact order. Punk: I gesture to Steve, the Chinese department chef. All right then. My partner in crime will be able to help you with that. AOL: not him. You. Get me my food. Punk: I'm sorry mama, we're two different departments, but Steve will be more than happy to. I am cut off. AOL: I want you to serve me. Not him. Get me my food. Punk: I'm not allowed to cross departments, but Steve will be able to. I am cut off again. AOL: I don't want that, insert Asian slur, to touch my food. Get it for me now. This goes on for a couple more exchanges. The gist is I try and bring her down, she keeps demanding I help her, so I go to my default and call a manager over the intercom. She keeps screaming, the manager gets there and I try and explain the situation to him while she's still squawking. More racial slurs the entire time. He tries 3 or 4 times to talk her down, angry old lady just keeps screaming for a white person to get her food instead of this slur. Y'all should probably know that my manager at this time was a big old Samoan dude. To his credit, he tried to talk her down 2/3 times. She kept crowing and then he shut her down. Mama, you are not allowed to shop here right now. Please leave the premises. Guess what? She kept screaming slurs and making demands. At this point the other customers are talking shit to her. I'm currently trying to get them to shut up, politely, while my store manager is just insisting that AOL don't get to shop here anymore today. Angry old lady eventually gives up and storms out, never shutting up. She's going to sue us all, we're all going to be fired, all the cuss words, the works. She's also very insistent that her son is going to make us pay/kill us all, also important for later. And she's leaving. I'm struck by inspiration. You see, I do customer service based on a strict script. Part of that script is the parting sentiment. You always let the customer know how much you appreciate them shopping with us. So as my very large Samoan boss is using his mask to gently herd the angry old lady out of the store, I shout out at the top of my lungs, thank you for shopping at company. Please come again. I'm not going to lie to you and say everyone clapped, but I got some very good laughs from the customers watching this whole ordeal. As a failed stand-up comedian, I enjoyed it. After she finally left, my boss came up to me, God damn it, punk thug. When you said that it was all I could do to not laugh. Back to work and clear this line. So we did. I had some customers compliment me on how I handled situation, which is nice. More importantly, my coworkers, who I deeply care about, also showed me their appreciation. That means a lot to me, so that was very nice. All in all, if that had been the end of the story, I would have posted this in March 2020. Part 2, The Sun. Same day, about 6/7 hours later, 9 p.m.-ish. The store is still open but the department is long since closed. Part of my duties is finishing up the cleanup at the end of the night. At this particular moment I was scrubbing the floors down by the sandwich area. Mop water all over the floor, hitting it with a deck brush so I can squeegee it into the floor sink. I even had one earbud in. I was listening to the Time Suck episode about Genghis Khan. I know that because it is in the court record. Angry voice, you. I look up. I see a very angry young man. Y'all should know, I'm 6 feet 3 but skinny as fuck and I've never fought a day in my life. This gentleman easily had 2 inches on me, looked like he lived at the gym, and had several what I can only describe as very prominent intimidating tattoos showing, on both his face and arms. Angry voice, are you the motherfucker that's disrespecting my mother? Punk what? I hadn't figured out what was going on at this point. Son, you're the one that disrespected my mother. There's really no way to accurately express our conversation at this point. He's leaning up against us 5 feet sandwich bar counter, looking like death incarnate going to break through the plexiglass. I'm confused at first, then terrified that this monster is angry at me once I realize what's happening. I do remember the last thing he said. Angry son, you're getting beat. Then he goes over to the sandwich bar check stand and vaults over it into the back counter area. You remember how I said it was cleaning the floor? Fast fact about the tile that's used in deli type areas, it gets very slick. We wear special shoes and still have problems if the floor is covered with water. I had not squeegeed any of the water from the area he landed in. So while I'm still thinking about using my deck brush as a hammer to defend myself, he lands and does a comical slide fall. He hits hard. Feet slide out immediately upon contact and ends up landing on his head. Like Looney Tune levels of impact. The other employees up at the front check stands have noticed the commotion and come over by then. What am I doing at this point? Well, I've seen the video. There's a good 30 seconds of me standing with a stiff bristle brush over my shoulder like I'm going to blacksmith this guy who's lying on the floor in front of me, motionless. And there's blood. Blood in a pool of soapy water on an already red tile floor is kind of weird looking. I don't even like thinking about it now. One of my coworkers is already on the phone with the police and informs them they're going to need an ambulance as well. 911 tells us not to touch him and they're there within 3 minutes. The professionals deal with everything then. Paramedics deal with Angry Boy and I end up talking to the police for the rest of my shift. I didn't even have to finish the floors and still got an hour's overtime grinning face with smiling eyes. Part 3, The Lawyers. This bit of the story is the longest period of time with the shortest amount of interesting stuff. As for myself personally, well, I'm union. This all happened at work and I needed to testify for it. I ended up getting 3 days off and fully paid for maybe 6 hours of deposition and maybe 15 minutes in a courtroom. My favorite points of this part of the whole ordeal. 1. I ended up going downtown and talking to an assistant district attorney, I guess, who stressed how to just say I don't know if I was asked about the specifics of the conversations I had and then they would legally lead me into expressing the conversation. Then her boss comes in and gets really pissy because I keep telling him I don't know. He and I did not get along. It might have been my fault but we shouted at each other a lot. His office sent me a Christmas card though, so blowing a kiss. 2. Turns out the son not only had multiple warrants in California, but he had several warrants in other states. The boss district attorney constantly bitched about how this made his job harder. 3. When the angry old lady was on the stand, she was exactly how I remembered her standing in line. She cussed every 5th word, every other time she cussed it was racial, and she had nothing but disdain for the entire process of law. She's a damn dirty bitch, but I can respect that. Other than the racism that is. So yeah, that was my March 2020. I hope you all enjoyed my shameless play for meaningless internet points. Much love, be kind to each other. TL, DR, old lady wants a white person instead of an Asian person to sell her Chinese food during the pandemic. I tell her no, she throws a tantrum. After she gets kicked out of the store, her son comes back later that night and threatens me, only to injure himself badly during the attack. I end up getting about 3 days extra pay for the whole ordeal and the damn good story. Edit, because everyone keeps asking. No, I don't recall exactly what he was charged with. I got some terms I think are correct but I don't want to ruin my good barroom story with bad information. Also yes, he's in jail. Only reason I know that is because someone called me and told me I would be contacted if he was ever up for parole or release. I'm not covering tills on your lunch, I don't even work here, by user Boeing_fan_777. This was a few years ago now, but at the time I was working at a store that was part of this big retail park. We sold home appliances, TVs, computers, and the like. Next door to my work was one of the more fancy grocery stores, and occasionally I'd go in there to grab lunch, sandwich and a drink type beat. Our uniforms are pretty similar, black polo shirt and pants with the only difference being the embroidered store logo. Anyway, I grab my things and place them on the conveyor to be scanned when the cashier looks at me, almost with relief, and says something to the tune of, "Oh thank goodness, do you mind covering me on tills while I go on break?" And at the time I was just pretty flustered and blurted out, "Nope, sorry, work next door," but for at least a week after I was coming up with quirky quips in response. Was all a good laugh in the end. They apologized. I said, "Easy mistake. All was right with the world," smiley face. The what? Where's that? By user art3missya_ao3. This happened a year or so ago. Was in my local supermarket, in the cleaners and detergents aisle. This older fella is wandering down the aisle with his trolley of items and taking on his phone. I didn't really pay attention at first, but soon notice he seems agitated. From his end of the convo it's clear he's been sent to pick up a particular item and he doesn't have the first clue how to find it. The person on the other end was presumably trying to describe it to him, with no success. He looks completely lost. So I quietly ask him if he needs help. This look of relief on his face was huge, and he says, "There's a lady here who can help," hangs up and names a brand of fabric softener. I knew the product and found it pretty quickly. He was stoked and grabbed two, saying he hoped two would mean he wouldn't end up having to find it again, at least for a while. Happy ending all round. Weaponizing the teed-off wife against Karen, by user Anon42 many reasons. Put this in a comment and was told it should be its own post. Not my story, and this was long enough ago that I don't think the friend even remembers it now. My friend gave some lady, demanding his manager for refusing to help her, a number and said she can speak with you now, if you need. Lady called and after hearing hello proceeded to go on a 5-minute tirade. During this 5-minute tirade, dude is walking around being followed by Karen while he shops, his wife appears, and when Karen finally takes oxygen into her body and brain, the wife says into her own cell phone, "I know this is hard for you to comprehend, but my husband is shopping with me. F off before I punch you in the face," hung up the phone and stared down Karen, clearly hoping she'd have an excuse. Wife had been having a bad day. Karen was smart enough for once to silently walk the hell away, and husband asked if she wanted her fave ice cream and chocolate, lol. For the third time, I don't work here, by user Successful Sky 1859. Firstly, I want to point out that each time I've been mistaken, I have worn my work uniform, which is black pants and a black shirt with pink armbands. The place I got mistaken for working at wears a green uniform. The place is a supermarket. First time was when was looking for a farewell card for my colleague. I work in a shopping mall, so my work wasn't far from the store. I spent a couple minutes looking for a card and a lady came up and asked for a particular product. I politely responded with, "I'm sorry, I don't work here." She was stunned and apologized immediately. It wasn't a big deal to me, so I said, "It's okay, I hope you get what you're looking for," and go about the rest of my day. The second time was after work, and was quite in a bit of a rush. I had my bags all with me and was fast walking so I could grab what I needed and go. As I was going towards the checkout with my basket of things, a gentleman stopped me and asked, "Do you have any more bananas at the back?" I quickly replied with, "Oh sorry, I don't work here," and quickly rushed off. I thought, how can I be mistaken twice now when the uniform is completely different? I just giggled and went about my day. The third time I had finished work again but wasn't in a rush this time. I was casually strolling around the supermarket thinking what to have for dinner that night. Next thing I heard was a lady behind me say, "Excuse me." As soon as I heard that, I instantly thought to myself, she thinks I work here. She kindly asked, "Where is the bread?" In the end I pointed to where the bread is for this lady and just gave up trying to explain that I don't work there. The lady never found out I don't work there. None of these stories are any bad encounters, so I apologize for no Karen stories, but it's safe to say I've learned my lesson to go to the grocery store in my uniform.